Hi, folks. Welcome to Your World with Prakash Kapila. In this episode, we come up with a very fantastic topic about how we can escape recession if recession is already there with us. So, in this episode, what we are going to talk about is what is inflation, what is recession, and how to overcome if we are already there in that recession. What are the things that we can do to survive this tsunami of economic downturn? I shouldn't say tsunami because the economists are saying that this is a very mild recession if it is there. So, what are the major how do we calibrate recession is more important right now. So, what the specific technical term of recession is? Two quarters of 2 quarters of slowing growth is called recession technically. So, in all the recessions that we have seen, and recessions are part of the economic cycle, right? We cannot predict when the recession will come. Nobody can do that. But we can definitely say on what terms we can come out of the recession. And who are those people, entities, companies, businesses that can overcome the onslaught of recession, however drastic they may be. So, like Harry Truman has said that, if you don't have job, you are in depression. If you have a job, you are fine. So, coming to the effects of recession, there are two basic components that get affected by recession. One is the workforce, that is the common people, citizens like you and me, and the other one is businesses that have this multitude of forces that are acting on the business. So, in all of the recessions, one thing is common till date is the job loss. The unemployment rate during 2008 2009 was at 10%. In 2002, it was a very mild recession, but it was at 7% unemployment rate. And 2020, the unemployment rate fell very low, right? But at that time, what did Fed do? It pumped in money for people so that they don't feel the effects of recession. So the government gave money to people so that they can, withstand the onslaught of the recession and the pandemic. So since the pandemic was very once in a century kind of thing, so there were drastic measures taken by Fed and the government. One, the Fed lowered the interest rate to almost zero, and then started buying the mortgage-backed securities. So what it said to banks was, okay, you just go and give the mortgages to people. We are going to, backstop the financial agreement between you and your consumers. So what did banks in turn do? They started giving loans to businesses. They started giving loans to the individuals for refinancing their homes. So from 2020 onwards to 2022 till date, what happened was a lot of refinance activities started happening, and the interest rates were so low. It was like 2%, 2.5% for US dollar denominated loans. And all over the world, the federal agencies like RBI for India and European Commission for EU and Bank of England for UK, they all started giving the same thing, right? Like they bought the loans that the banks have given to the individual and the companies, and they have bought they have given the money to individual people. So when the things were going like this, all of a sudden there were a few things that happened. One is basically the Russia-Ukraine war started happening. Two was complete lockdown in China that resulted in no supplies. So what happened was from 2000 to 2020, right? The whole world started depending on China for its manufacturing prowess, for its goods, supplies, and services. Whether it's European Union or US, totally China became the manufacturing hub of the world. So all of a sudden, what happened with COVID was there started happening lockdowns, and the companies started using up the inventory that they had stored for close to 2 years. And now they're out of inventory, and the supply is not coming because of the lockdowns, close downs, and there is no shipping activity. So what happened was the goods and the services that China supplied came down drastically, and the demand being same. See, supply and demand always are equal, right? With price as the stability factor. So when the supply and the demand are equal for a particular price and the supply starts falling, what will happen to the demand? It doesn't fall, it still stays there. So when the supply is not there and the demand is constant, what will happen? The prices increase. The equilibrium of demand and supply is basically the price. So when the supply is coming down, the price increases to maintain the equilibrium. So the demand should fall. But the demand doesn't fall because there is something called price elasticity that happens. So for example, if you have to eat rice or you have to eat bread, right? Even if the bread goes up by 10%, you still have to buy the bread. You still have to buy the rice to eat. So what will happen? The demand will not fall. The demand will remain stubborn at the same time, whereas the supply is falling. So the price starts increasing. And this increase of price is called inflation. So this inflation is going to affect you, me, companies, governments, everybody. Because in everything, the price starts increasing. Everything. Whether you talk about rice, wheat, oil, as it is, and anything, leaves, fruits, plants, everything. And the services are the ones that get affected. Services is basically saying like, say I am doing this channel, I'm doing this news for a news channel, and the news channel pays me, but the services will start getting affected because I have to pay for my rice, for my bread, for everything. So what will I say is increase my salary. So when I start saying increase my salary because I have to pay more for the bread, I have to pay more for the rice, I have to pay more for the oil, then what happens? The wage increases happen. So the wage increase and the price increase put together creates inflationary pressure on all the commodities, all the services, and all the businesses as such. So if you look at it, a business has got inputs and outputs. So what does businesses now are facing is raising costs of inputs in terms of supply, in terms of wages, in terms of labor. So this recession is very, very, if we have one, is very complicated for the businesses, not much for the job seekers. So this is a kind of transition. If the businesses start slowing down, they will start firing people. So the wage increase will come down, and the firing of people will create a labor equilibrium so that the companies will get the labor. But in this particular scenario, you are not finding labor. One, they have become old and they don't want to work. They have worked for so long, they don't want to work anymore. Two, they have found some other alternative ways of survival where they don't need the particular job. Say, for example, if I'm a waiter in a restaurant in New York and I lost my job in COVID, so what do? I go back to my village or suburb or some place, and then I start my own restaurant, right? I start giving food and all those. I know because I'm a waiter. If I learn how to cook, then I can start delivering things. So I have transformed myself from being a waiter to a waiter, cook, and delivery guy during the COVID, and I have created my own company. So like that, the transform this what we call this is called transformation. So the labor has transformed itself because of COVID, and therefore we are not finding any labor, and therefore the unemployment rate is very low. During recessions, mind you, I told you before that the lot of people will lose jobs, but that's not happening right now, except for few software companies in Silicon Valley. None of them is laying off their people. They're just staying put. They're just so hanging on to their people that they don't want to lay off. But at the same time, the prices are increasing. The companies that have to get profit are squeezed with the profit margin. So profit margin was this much when they did a lot of outsourcing. Now the profit margin has come down like this. At some point of time, the business will say, hey, I can't match the price that I'm giving to the customer, so I will increase the price or I will reduce my costs. When reduction of cost happens, that's when the layoffs will start happening. So what is the stock market saying? The stock market in US is saying that we are already near the recession. We are expecting the recession to happen in a couple of months. And what is the data saying? The data is saying no recession. The oil price start falling, the wages are stable, the unemployment rate start falling. So these are a big indicators of whether we have recession or not. Believe me, when Harry Truman said that if you don't have job, you are in depression. If you have job, then nothing matters. That's very true. For any individual who is having job, who is able to have the salary, for them there is no effect of recession, except that few prices have increased. So they are able to manage the price increases. Even though the price have increased by 10% and the wages have not increased by 10%, still labor force is happy. It's not dwindling. I mean, the availability of labor force is coming down, but the people who are who want to find a job are finding another job. So instead of asking their employees to give them a raise, they're just quitting the job and finding a better job. So that's a very good statistic in the present job market, where people are able to find jobs and the businesses are not able to find the labor. So the cost of businesses has gone up. The profit margin has come down. So when the outsourcing was happening, the cost of labor was either stable or going down, and the profit margin increased. So the profit margin became more and more bigger, whereas the cost became very smaller, like this. In this scenario, in the present scenario, what is happening is the profit margin is coming down, and the labor cost that used to be like this started going up. So when the profit margin is decreasing, the companies are feeling the heat of the recession. The labor is not feeling the heat of recession. In other words, the employees are not feeling the pinch of recession, whereas the employers, that is the businesses, are feeling the pinch of recession. It's a very paradoxical situation, because on one hand you see all the CEOs saying that the market is tough, and on the other hand you see all the workers are saying, I don't care, I have another job, if this job goes, I'll go to the another job. So the job security is very high for the labor, whereas the market profit margins is very low for the companies. So, for if we could classify this recession as company-specific recession instead of a economic recession, if there is one. So, this is a unique situation, and in this unique situation, we have a playbook where you can overcome that recession. If you feel there is a pinch, whether you are an employee or an employer, you feel that there is a pinch coming your way, you're feeling a little bit let down, then there is a rule book against which you can overcome the recession. So what is that rule book? Number one, for businesses, focus on your high profit margin. The low profit margin, shun away the low profit margin. Only the high profit margin, you try to multiply that. That's rule number one. Rule number two, you have to reorient your labor force into more profit margin, more profit oriented tasks. So to give you an example, say you are a delivery company and you are delivering some goods to someone. So when you are delivering something to a company ABC, instead of just doing the delivery and coming back, you try to make this delivery guy a sales guy as well. So the guy will go there and say, hey, I'm giving you this products XYZ. I also have products 1, 2, 3. Why don't you try that? So the delivery man becomes the salesman as well. So what you're doing, you're upskilling the labor force. The upskill of the labor force is what determines a business survival and growth. Because mind you, the pinch is across the board. There is no letting down, right? Everybody is pinched, everybody is trying to get over that pinch, escape from that pinch. So what you need to do, as I said, rule number one is focus on your high profit margin product. Whatever is the high profit margin, you completely focus on that. Number two, upskill your workforce into the high profit margin zones. What is number three? Number three is you have to communicate to your employees as well as your investors and the bankers, whoever it is, that the financial there is a financial constraint happening. We won't be doing things that we were doing before. We have to reorient, we have to make things much better. So what do? We have to make sure that the finances are flowing, right? So if you are an individual person and you are in brink of, you are trying to find your new job, right? Don't stop paying your credit card. Pay your credit card so that the liquidity remains with you, at least minimal. Okay. The second thing is, don't start with more credit cards, but try to increase the credit level to a little bit more, so that you there are two things. One, you can ask the credit provider to increase your credit after you pay off everything. I mean, all the minimal stuff, more than minimal payment. Number two, you can apply for other credit cards so that you can have liquidity in your pocket. As far as businesses is concerned, try to allocate more finances on a high profit margin product, and try to the other thing that the business has to do is try to find new customers, new market segment, and new target segment. See, there is a lot of segmentation of market that's happened, but during normal times, what happens is those target segments are already covered by people or entities. Now, with recession, you have an opportunity. Lot of businesses start closing, right? So when businesses start closing, what will happen? Their customers will try to find new businesses where they can get more and more services or products. So the customers will start going around. This is bad and good also. So the bad for existing businesses and good for uh, you know new businesses, so new customers for a business. So you have to keep on trying to build the new customer base, thinking that you are already in the recession, right? So you have to communicate to your bankers, to your investors, to your employees in particular, saying that, see, our profit margin are coming down. We have to control the costs. We will have to change the way we approach things. And the transparency is going to help you. Don't give panic. Don't make the panic situation, but try to give the situation in such a way that you don't have a problem. Okay, so that is another thing. The most important thing for any business right now is to not panic, but be transparent in your financial applications, in your financial status, and don't give them a very worst warning. Try to conserve the liquidity as much as possible. So find more creditors, or find less expenses, lessen your expenses, keep your workforce attuned to your business goals, and try to focus more on profit margins that can help you in going to the new markets, finding new customers, finding new SKU, new products is what will help you in. So you were only doing 1, 2, 3, or 4 products. Now in 5th product you see a good profit margin, take it and try to diversify into a high profit margin zone, and more customers is the mantra here. More customers, high profit margin. That is what going to help you. So with this, hopefully we did some good background, and let's meet again next week with more information. So right now the situation is the employment rate in US is 3.5 and falling. The inflation was at 9%, now it is at 8.5% and falling. The oil prices is falling. So we got some good news, but hopefully this news keeps on going and we are out of recession. Thank you, and you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.